Welcome everybody to the Gary Neville Podcast, which takes place this weekend to the background of Arsenal's end-of-term lap of honour, which follows on from a very good 1-0 win against Newcastle here. Fabulous goal from Declan Rice, some wonderful saves from David Raya, and Arsenal, all bar something ridiculous in terms of goal difference, Gary, will be the runners-up again. So whilst they have a game to play, what's your end-of-term report?
I think that's important that they do finish runners-up. Interesting listening to the three people we've just heard do interviews or speeches on the pitch. Declan Rice, obviously with Sky speaking to Patrick, and then Martin Odegaard, the captain, and Mikel Arteta, all very sort of stoic in their sort of words, quite firm, saying that basically they know that they've not done what they wanted to do this season, that they wanted to make this a Premier League title winning day. Mikel Arteta said those words himself, and it's not quite there, but this group of players have got the quality, the hunger, and that everybody, all of them, are pointing towards next season and what's going to happen. I said during the commentary that he pointed towards Berta, the new sporting director, that he said that everyone was on the same page, and Josh Kroenke said that they're going to invest. They have to bring trophies next season. They know that. I think they're almost at sort of, if you like, fronting up in that respect. There's no hiding place next year. They've had reasons this season why they haven't obviously competed as well as they would have liked, but the fact of the matter is they've fallen short, and that can't continue to keep happening, because it's a great football club, Arsenal, and they've maintained correctly with the stability of Mikel Arteta now over 4, 5, 6 years, and they're a good group of players and they've got a good style of play, but they need to get over the line next season, and I think it's pretty obvious where they need to strengthen in midfield and in attack. On today's game, I thought actually there was a good thing in the second half. If you think of Arsenal's back four, could easily be Gabriel, Salibri, it obviously would be those two, but it could easily also be Timber and Tomiyasu at fullbacks. So that was actually, you could argue, a second choice back four that were playing in that second half against a very good Newcastle team. So I think it's obvious that they don't need to strengthen in that area. I think they've got a really good group of defenders there. I've not mentioned Zinchenko amongst them, obviously, either. So I think that part of the pitch is fine. They've got some good midfield players. I think they do need, obviously, Jorginho goes, and I think they need to bring in someone of high quality in that area to go alongside Odegaard, Rice and Partey, Mourinho. They've got a good, strong group of midfield players if they bring another one in there. And then it's that sort of forward area of the pitch which is where it needs to happen, because they've got a really good methodology of play, but there's just a little bit of spark, a little bit of penetration, a little bit of bite that's missing, and not easy to find and identify world-class players or players that can sort of take them up that extra level, but they have to find them, because if they don't, they'll be letting the club down, they'll be letting the fans down, they'll be letting themselves down, the manager and coach. He needs arming with a couple of really good forwards, and if he gets that, they've got a real chance. I thought they would have won the title this season. They haven't done, and they have to reflect upon that, and I'm sure they've done it already.
How do you ensure as Arsenal that you are the one? I sort of asked you this question last week, but how do you ensure you are the one that wins the race for the super talent? Because there are half a dozen super clubs that want the super player. How do Arsenal win that race?
Well, how they'll win it is by having the money, first and foremost, to be able to offer the fees and the packages for those players that are available. Second thing is to sell that story of a great football club, which Arsenal is a great football club, make no mistake. But then the most important thing is that you're the missing piece of the jigsaw. You can see where we were in the Champions League, we were so close. You can see where we are in the last 3 years in the Premier League, we're so close. We just need you to get us over the line. And I think obviously it's an attractive place to come. It is at this moment in time. There's a stability here, they're a good group of players and a good team. They've got a coach who needs to get over the line as well. So I think to put those three things together, look, if they're in and up against Real Madrid, Barcelona, they may struggle. But I think at any point, any club in the Premier League, Arsenal with its location in London, I think would probably be at this moment in time, if they can match the salaries of the other clubs, will be a really attractive proposition. So, yeah, they need to find out who it is that they're going to go and get. I'm sure they've identified people already. And it's important, this. It really is important, because what they can't do at the end of this 6-7 year journey with Mikel Arteta is be a team that haven't won. They have to make it a team that wins now. And we'll see. It's interesting, it's intriguing already for next season.
And it's really interesting in the context of Newcastle, who of course have won a trophy this season.
Yeah.
Arsenal would be jealous of that, and came into this game. It's now a 5-point gap, but with 2 games to play, they were 2 points behind Arsenal. So in your mind, how far behind Arsenal are they? Are they a comparable club?
I mean, I say this because they've done brilliantly over this last few months and this season, and they're more than likely going to get into the Champions League, which they fully deserve. But I think he'll be really disappointed with that second half, Eddie Howe. I think he really will be, because in the first half they did some good things and they should have gone in front. David Raya's saves were incredible, but they didn't come out in the second half. Credit to Arsenal, who did really well and flipped their performance on its head. But I think he'll be disappointed with what he's seen in the second half. And what Eddie Howe needs necessarily is not necessarily a better starting 11. Yeah, that's important. He just needs a deeper squad to be, it's the financial fair play stuff with Newcastle in terms of their revenues are lower than the other clubs at the very top of the league. So he is restricted, so he's got to be clever and smart in how he goes about it. But they'll finish the job off next week, I'm sure, against Everton, and they'll get in the Champions League, and that will be a sensational season for them. A great season for the club, for the fans, for Eddie Howe, for the players. So yeah, they're on track. I was a little bit disappointed with them in the second half, because I thought the game was there for the taking. If you played like that in the first half, and then you've seen Saliba go off at half-time, you're thinking your eyes must light up. A little bit like England in the Euros final when Rodri went off at half-time. You're almost thinking, this couldn't be any better for an away win or for a win that you're not expecting. And yeah, it didn't quite happen, obviously, in the Euros final, and didn't quite happen in the second half. And like I say, it was a good one it's a good one in the second half for Arsenal that Calafiori and Kivior stood firm, because that tells you that you can trust. What you can't have with Arsenal next season is any excuses. Oh, Saliba got injured. Oh, Gabriel got injured. We know they're going to get injured and they're going to miss games. But at least they've proven today that Kivior and Calafiori can come in and do a good job against, obviously, a good team. So, yeah, good season for Newcastle. I think for Arsenal, you can't say it's a good season. They've just said out there on the pitch, the manager and the captain, that they're disappointed that they haven't been able to win trophies. So you can't say it's a good season, but I wouldn't say the momentum is sort of completely gone. But they certainly need to be alert now to the danger of becoming a nearly team. Arsenal and Newcastle, Eddie Howe is doing a great job, and I think where they are is well above par, in my mind.
Elsewhere in this big race to finish in the top 5, obviously there were Friday night wins for 2 of them against the Europa League finalists, so they were kind of convenient fixtures, which were duly won by Chelsea and Villa. And a big win away from home for Forest to keep themselves in the mix for the last day. Really
important win for Forest. Still, they're up against it a little bit. I mean, they've got a big game next weekend. Obviously City have got 2 games, difficult games actually. Bournemouth are a tasty opponent, and City will be flat after having lost in a cup final, so they've got to get themselves up properly for Tuesday night and finish the job off, and then they've got Fulham away. So there's a lot to play for in this next week, and it'll be interesting. I'm not sure, do you know where you are? Oh, you're at Anfield, are you, next Sunday?
I'll wait for instructions, Dave.
We're all waiting for instructions. We're not quite sure where we're going to be, but maybe it'll become more apparent after Tuesday night in City's game and what's happening. But yeah, a lot to play for, a lot of money at stake next week, including in the Europa League, but also obviously in the Premier League, with who's going to get those places. At the moment, if you said that I had to select, I think City will just get in there. I think Newcastle will get in there. I think Villa might just sneak in. I think Nottingham Forest might just hamper Chelsea next weekend, next Sunday, and that Villa could win at Old Trafford. I mean, everyone's beating United at this moment in time, and so, yeah.
Well, it is a great plot for the final day, and that'll be fun to see how all that unwinds. Other business this weekend includes Jamie Vardy's farewell game for Leicester. I think his 500th and his 200th goal.
Yeah, big moment. It's been coming for a few weeks. He's been stuck on 199, but yeah, fantastic goal that he scored earlier on today, and a big moment for him. And 200 goals in the Premier League, is it for Leicester, is a big achievement. Fantastic career, and yeah, a good moment. Two poignant moments there. One was Jamie Vardy, and the other one I'm sure you can ask me about next, which is Everton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love going there, I must say. It's not about me, about what you think, but it's just so beautifully old school Goodison. Yeah. And I know life has to move on, but sometimes you sort of wish it didn't.
Yes. I think they do have to move on because of the stadium and the state of it, but you're right, there is you can feel an excitement about going into a new stadium and the club moving forward and creating greater revenues and being able to compete again at a higher level, but you can also feel sad and nostalgic about a great stadium that's had a lot of history, and it was great seeing I saw a bit of the sort of celebrations, or what you would call them, the sort of the way in which they handled the transition at the end of the game with people coming onto the pitch. It looked really special there, what was going on. I won't miss clambering up onto that gantry. They break my neck every time I go.
And then banging your head on the trap door.
on the steel things that come across the thing. But what a gantry. I mean, the gantry that shakes when Everton score, that's it. I mean, it's just that's the one thing that I will always remember in my football career. Great place to play at, full of fire and passion. You know, we won there quite a few times, but when you lost there, it was a miserable place to lose because of the sort of the atmosphere that the home team and the fans created. But yeah, the gantry in my post-football career will remember it just being for the one that shakes and just literally leaves you thinking, what's going on around here? It felt like 100 years old, but yeah, a beautiful stadium, a beautiful old place, and a place that ultimately will go down in history as one of the great football grounds. But Everton move on, and a lot of clubs, we're in this stadium here, the Emirates, and you look at Arsenal, they're one of the giants in terms of revenues in the last 20 years. If Everton had done it probably 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you know, they may be in a better position today, but that's just life. You know, you see what happens. They can hopefully get back to being a club that win trophies again. And that's the good thing about this season, and we'll come on to Palace, but Palace winning yesterday, Newcastle beating Liverpool in the Carabao Cup. I hope it doesn't transfer to Wednesday night and Tottenham winning a trophy. But, you know, it's nice to see clubs that haven't won a trophy for many, many years or ever won a trophy do so.
Yeah, well, you brought it up. And talking of old school, I don't know how you felt, but I loved the FA Cup final yesterday because it felt like the FA Cup final when I was a boy. It really felt like the most important game, and it really mattered so much to the team that won it. And it brought it, as I say, an almost nostalgic freshness.
I think you're right. I think that the FA Cup is about the underdog. It always has been, whether it's the third round or whether it's the final, whether it's Wimbledon, whether it's Hereford all those years ago. You just think about the great shocks, don't you, in the FA Cup? That's what's kept this competition alive. The idea that the underdog can win, that someone from non-league can beat a Premier League team. Is it Sutton that beat Coventry all those years ago? It was, wasn't it? I mean, and they'd won it the year before, hadn't they? So you just think of the great Coventry winning it themselves against Spurs, was it, in that final? Just great moments of your childhood where you think of, and for me as a United fan in the 80s, it was the only real silverware that I could celebrate. You know, Norman Whiteside just curling it into that far corner, just magical memories. And we all have our own sort of history, don't we, with our clubs, with the FA Cup. And yesterday, it was so special for Crystal Palace to win the first trophy, and to do it in the way in which they did is just magnificent for them. And the fans were crying. Your colleague with NBC, when you worked with NBC, Rebecca, and my colleague on the podcast, obviously came over, and I was happy for her. And obviously Steve Parish, who's obviously done a very good job, an excellent job at Crystal Palace over the years, maintaining them as a Premier League club, but also now winning silverware. It's a great story. I enjoyed West Ham winning the Conference League a few years ago. I'm not a West Ham fan, but you just sometimes have to enjoy it, that a club deserves success. You want every fan base at some point to feel that success.
Yeah, I don't imagine a European night there when one of the fancy clubs comes in the Europa League, and there's always one in every group.
They won't enjoy it.
They won't, exactly. They'll never have defended the Sainsbury's end before.
We were just talking about gantries, weren't we, before? You walk to Crystal Palace, and it's literally you're literally ducking out under those beams all the way to the end. But again, it's what makes English football ground special.
No, brilliant. Any other business?
I don't think so.
You've got to speak about the Europa League. I know we did last year, but it's the final this week, so a quick word on that.
Yeah, as it gets nearer, the importance of it for both clubs is just going to really ramp up. 35, 40,000 English fans going over to Bill Power. It's going to be a special atmosphere, and a lot at stake. A lot at stake for both managers, for both clubs. It really does impact the next, I think, maybe possibly 2-3 years for each of these clubs, because they need investment into their teams. And if they don't get this Champions League money, then there's going to be a lot less investment, which means then that they could not finish it. They might not finish in the Champions League next season, which then means that you're just, if you like, bumping the problem more down the road. And yeah, so important for both clubs. Ange, many saying that no matter what happens, that he may not stay at Spurs. So he said earlier on in the season that he would win silverware in his second season, and he's on the brink of doing so. For Ruben Amorim, to win silverware in his first season at Manchester United and sort of be able to overcome the horrific league form and go into that pre-season with a new group of players with the money behind him that he's got to be able to invest into the squad, and the confidence of a medal round the players' necks and his neck is massive. So it's huge on Wednesday, and I said from the moment that those two teams went through, I've got a sickly feeling about it. I won't look forward to it on Wednesday, to be honest with you, from a point of view as being a United fan, until it's over and hopefully United have won. But I know Tottenham fans will be thinking very differently.
Yeah, it is that time when we all feel sick as fans. Obviously, playoff weekend ahead as well.
Yes.
We didn't go into that, but by this time next week, Sheffield United or Sunderland will have ticked the final box. That's a massive game. Last weekend of the Premier League.
A series of £100 million football matches, Peter.
Exactly that, Gary. Exactly.
What football was designed for?
Was it? Okay.
I don't think so.
Well done, Gary. Thank you very much.
Thanks.